You always know that you're having a good day when you have to put your waterproofs on before you've even untied the ropes.
Hello there folks, I'm Dan Barrington of sortofinterestinglife.com, and today I'm going to share with you a random little tale of how narrowboat life doesn't always go to plan and how little unexpected things can change a nice day travelling down the canal at a nice relaxed pace to a heart-pumping, adrenaline-fuelled panic. So, I'll set the scene first of all, and I'll also say this isn't the same comedy as the bird poo incident. If that intrigues you and you haven't seen the video, then there's a link in the description below. I've got a few clips that I'll throw into this video, as well as a couple of props just out of shot at the moment. But let's dive in and set the scene. So, some of you may know that a couple of weeks ago I mentioned I had a general unhealthy sounding engine, and me and my friend were travelling along, hoping to do a good long trip of a couple of hours, and it got cut dramatically short when the engine wouldn't stop making very odd, unhealthy, I don't know if you would describe it as rumbling noises. Not crunching, but more a general rumbling sound. So we thought it's best to moor up while we've got the chance and cancel the trip. So I had a look in the engine, couldn't see anything obviously wrong. Thought, right then, just leave it for a day or so, just to make sure that anything that's out of place can settle, and then I can keep an eye on it as I'm travelling along with the board up. So, everything's lovely. So a couple of days later, I think, you know what, we're on a nice stretch of canal where I know that if there were any engine problems, at almost every point I'm going to be able to pull over to the side and moor up. So hopefully, if there was an issue with the engine, I'd be able to nice and safely get to the side pretty sharpish. So I set off, and travelling down, it's the usual lovely canal sort of thing where you've got the beautiful countryside, then you've got the rain showers, so I had my waterproofs on, waterproofs off, waterproofs on, the usual British summer sort of thing basically. As I'm travelling down, I've got one of the deck boards up so I can keep peering into the engine, and there's no unusual noises, everything looks like it's perfect. And after a certain point I'm starting to think, yeah, you know what, this is great, this is fantastic, everything's back on fine form. So I get to the first of the New Martin locks, and I discover that one of the previous boat through had left the back gates open with the paddles up, which, that's terrible poor form, I'm sure you can imagine, as the general rule is to leave the locks in a neutral position where all the gates are closed and all the paddles are down. But I thought, you know what, it's not the end of the world, and I assumed that they'd been caught in a passing rain shower and thought, oh, no chance am I getting off this boat to go and do that. So anyway, I closed them up, lowered the paddles, filled the lock up, everything was lovely again. So I let Tilly into the lock, and then in the usual way there were no other boats around, so I could take things at my usual pace, which is very slowly indeed. So let a bit of water out gradually so that I can keep control of the boat. Obviously working the lock on my own, there's no need to take unnecessary risks. And as I am then getting it back onto the boat, I had the gates open to go out and the paddles down, everything was lovely, and I start to move out of the lock. I'm even more pleased because I see a boat coming up towards me, which then obviously means that I haven't got to get off the boat, go and close the gates, because they'll go straight into the gates that I've just come out of. I'd say I was probably about 3 foot away from being clear of the lock itself, and then suddenly absolute chaos broke out below my feet in the engine bay, and I couldn't explain the panic and the instant terror that gripped me, because I could just hear all sorts banging around, and I genuinely thought that something terrible had happened, like the propeller shaft had broken and was being flung around in there. What it was this piece of wood. And basically there's a couple of these pieces of wood down below on the bottom of the boat basically to stand on, so that you can get to the engine and work on it. I'll just put that to one side. And those are obviously loose, as you can see. I just picked it straight up out of the engine bay to do this video. But the terror and what had caused the noises and everything for the last couple of weeks was basically because I'd been stuck behind a very slow boat and the engine was running in basically neutral and extremely low, barely a tick over. There'd been enough vibration to rattle that just slowly closer and closer to the engine, until finally it was resting against the engine, which was then shaking it, which was making the rumbling noise. So I was very happy when I discovered what the problem had been, but the real terror was that had managed to work its way over like a few days of boating to get caught on the propeller shaft, where it basically sort of joins in with the engine. So there's like bolts around it. Instead of it just being a straight tube, there's like a section of bolts. So that spins around. I mean, I normally don't really have much more than 1500 RPM. But you can imagine that getting caught on something that is spinning that fast and then being flicked up and all around the place. And it was one of those moments of, my goodness me, I've managed to get over to the side, see what the problem was, and of course as soon as I put it into reverse, it catches it again and starts flinging it around the other way. And it's like, I was very happy to see that the problem wasn't serious and the propeller shaft wasn't all over the place and the boat filling with water, but I was still in that state of like, oh my goodness me, let's just stop and have a second here. So obviously pulled that to one side and everything was lovely again. And as I was just at the side, obviously this holiday boat came down, and before they got there, there was a chap walking up to get to the locks, obviously to open the gates for him. They've worked out the routine. And so this chap stops and asks me about what's up the canal. And as I'm there standing and talking, I had my back to Tilly. And so it's just quizzing me about what pubs there are and how far they are, how long it'll take to travel. And I thought, let's think, yeah. So I'm sort of racking my brains to come up with how many minutes it might take. Anyway, I then have this moment where it's just that sort of panic where, again, the chap who I'm speaking to, who's like looking back at Tilly, goes, oh, hang on. So then I turn around to see Tilly. My side is still right next to the canal, but the end is practically right across the canal, practically a 45-degree angle, touching the other side. So then it was like we both got our hands on the side of the boat and managed to heave it back. It's extremely difficult to heave the front in by putting pressure on the back of the boat, but it was all that we had at the time. So we managed to do that. So that was another one of those things. And holiday boat comes up and past, and off they go. And thank you, have a good trip, all the usual things. The final thing, I'm there happily going away and thinking, yes, lovely stuff. Holiday boat comes down the side of me as I start to move off. But because I normally would let the boat go past and then push out into the canal a little bit further, but I thought, let's just get going, because obviously there was all the drama and trauma. I just really at that point wanted to find a mooring and stop for the night. So as I then start to pull away from the side, the embankment there has got the steel corrugated sides, but it's all really warped and all uneven. And amazingly, the back fender managed to get caught behind the corrugated metal. And of course, when you're on a moving boat, as soon as you see something like that's happened, it's pretty much already too late. The fender gets absolutely jammed straight into this corrugated siding. As the boat carries on moving forward, I instantly took the throttle off and started reverse, but it was already going with the momentum. And I just have this moment of the whole boat gets dragged down to the one side, and you're talking like way up, really proper down. And it's obviously, you can just hear all sorts of creaking and cracking and that. And then the rope broke. But if I get my second prop of the trip, you can see it snapped the rope obviously where it ties onto the boat. So then obviously the boat then like snaps back and so way up. I was like being on the high seas. But when I went back to pick this fender up, I was amazed and terrified, and this shows the power that are in these little boats moving at hardly any speed at all, but obviously with the momentum of tons of moving metal. It had managed to rip straight through the side of the fender, and I don't know if you can see this properly on the camera there, but this is a proper thick bit of rubber, and when I say that the force has managed to tear it straight through the rubber itself, but I can't even prise open the gap that it's already torn for me. So I haven't been able to manage to force this through. I've had the old spoons and pliers on it trying to do it. But yeah, that's my second prop of the trip. And needless to say, after that had happened, moored up again about maybe 40 foot away from where I just set off from, ran and got this, saw that damage to it and tried to put it back, and I was like, oh, I give up. So then I started to carry on down, and the rain started up again, and I passed a few moored up boats. Thought, I'm tempted here. Am I going to moor up? Am I not? And then in the end, I passed a boat, which I don't know, perhaps the people on that boat are watching right now, but loads of people. It was a holiday boat from church, and there was maybe 5 or 6 people who all sort of in turn, as I was going past, like one person waved and then tapped somebody on the shoulder and they waved, and then the other people turned around to wave. So if that was you and you recognised Tilly from YouTube, then please feel free to shout. There's been plenty of people doing so recently, but that was quite a nice way to end the trip. So just went around the corner and thought, you know what, this rain's not going anywhere. I've had too much fun on this trip already. Let's moor up and have ourselves a nice quiet evening. And I think that's one of those cases where I was probably in bed by about 10 o'clock. I had about half an hour sleep timer on the podcast that I was listening to. I don't think I even stayed awake to listen to all of that. Anyway, this video has spiralled way out of control and way beyond the quick little tale that I was hoping to tell you, so hopefully you've enjoyed it. Check out my other videos for a load more narrowboat life and tutorials and general scenery and trips down on a boat. Of course, feel free to subscribe, like the Facebook page, feel free to add me personally on Facebook and Twitter for plenty of boaty updates and general pictures from the canal. Until the next time, make sure you check out my books about narrowboat life. A Narrowboat and a Notebook is the latest one. That's the one that people seem to enjoy, so I'll just say check that one out first. Go on. It's the one that I think it's the most well written, and it's the one that's actually had proper editing and somebody who knows about grammar properly look at it. So check those out, and until the next time, have a fantastic day, keep it boat worthy, and I hope to see you around soon. Farewell.